Now I'm just a song. Now I'm a sunshine.
And okay, so the one thing Lynn asked me to talk about was how I met Lynn and Helen. And it was 10 years ago, and it was at the Libby Park. It was, I don't know if you remember, there was a Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida. Some religious fanatic got in there, and it was a gay club, and it was horrible. So at the time I was a staff photographer with the Ventura County Star. They assigned me to photograph that. I always get to my shoots early. I went to the Vine. I sat down, and there was quite an outgoing, jovial lady with a Boston accent. And she said, "I'm Helen." I go, "Okay, hey, nice to meet you." We just chatted for a bit. And I said, "Well, hopefully I'll see you after the event." So during the event, I met a very attractive lady, and my information was shared with Lynn and Helen, and so was hers during the day, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So after the event, I went back to my spot at the bar with Helen, and I was editing, and then this attractive, slender-looking woman comes up to me, and she said, "Hi, I'm Lynn. Are you a lesbian?" I'm like, "Of course." But then I thought for a second, there was a couple of beats. I went, "Wait a minute, Lynn? Helen? Oh my God, are you Lynn and Helen of Ojai?" "Yeah." "I've been waiting 15 years to meet you." I said, "Everybody has told me if I want to get in with the women in Ventura, with the lesbians in Ventura County, Lynn and Helen are the folks to know." So I was thrilled. I gave them my card, and the next week I came to photograph Ojai Pride, and the other attractive woman was there, and we met, we hit it off, and we just celebrated our 10th anniversary. So, yeah. So I know there are so many more stories out there, but that's how we got to know each other. Anyway, so get that one done. That one. Okay, so moving right along. First up is going to be Spencer, and then Amy, and then Lynn, and then you guys. So, Spencer, here we are. It's all yours.
Here I am.
Those chairs are tricky, aren't
Oh, they're small and flimsy. Okay, can everyone hear me? Yeah. Good, outstanding.
Raise the mic.
Yes, ma'am. Are we good here? We good? Thanks, Lynn. Okay. So, wonderful to see you all here to celebrate my mother's life. I'm Spencer Allen. I am not a lesbian. Okay? That's okay. Just because I have the Y chromosome, don't hold it against me. Okay? My mother and I kind of lost touch from about, I don't know, about 85 to 89. And I'm at college, recovering from an accident. I'm at the fraternity house, and who shows up? Of my mother, out of the blue. Great, awesome. So she rented a hotel room, and so she asked my brother and me and my father to meet at the hotel room. And then she came out. And my father, who was not a very insightful person, basically said, "Yep, I figured." Okay? So we have three men who reacted three completely different ways. My brother didn't know how to take it, so he took off and walked across town. After about 10, 15 minutes of my mother and myself and my father hugging, he said, "I probably should go get him." And so he left. So it was my mom and I in the hotel room. Want a beer? So I grabbed 2 beers and we sat down and watched a football game. Nothing had changed. There's absolutely a shortage of love in this world, and who am I to say what's right and what's wrong? Okay? So that's how we found out, and how I found out about Lynn, which is awesome. Okay? She had no filter. My children can attest to that. Though we tried to force feed it down her, but it didn't work. She couldn't remember anything, but if you told her a bad joke, she'd remember it forever and then would completely retell it and retell it and retell it. She was, it was her, okay? She was an individual, they broke the mold, and you can imagine growing up in Boston in the 40s, 50s, a household that was puritanically religious, knowing deep down who she was and what she was and what she was expected to do. And of course, I don't know about this because I wasn't there, but you went to college to get a husband. But she was a kick-ass codebreaker during the Cold War, so. And then she found my father. Great dude, but not a very good husband and father. He was an engineer, It is what it is, okay? She absolutely loved music, but couldn't carry a tune, even with handles. So growing up, I wanted to listen to AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Kansas, Boston, all that stuff. Well, my parents force-fed me PPM, Peter, Paul, and Mary, the Chad Mitchell Trio, the Kingston Trio, the Serendipity Singers, the Fifth Dimension. Oh! That was tough. But then to try and have any appreciation of that music coming from a woman who tone deaf in that heavy Boston accent was horrible. Horrible. Now, I'm not a singer. I was a musician. I played instruments because I realized that after puberty, my voice just didn't work. It just started doing crazy things. I could not control it. But when my mom was passing, and towards the end, where she was aware but wasn't verbal, I sat down with her, and the last, I'm not going to say meaningful, but the last communication we had, I pulled up a song on my phone, and it was her favorite. And I've written down some of the lyrics, and I've shortened the song a little bit because it's a long song, but there are just some stanzas that I want to communicate. Once upon a time there was a tavern where we used to raise a glass or two, remember how we laughed away the hours, and think of all the great things we'd do. Those were the days, my friends. We thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose. We'd fight and never lose. For we were young and sure to have our way. Then the busy years went rushing by us. We lost our starry notions on the way. If by chance I'd see you in the tavern, we'd smile at one another and then we'd say, through the door there came familiar laughter. I saw your face and heard you call my name. Oh, my friend, we're older but no wiser, for in our hearts the dreams are just the same. Just tonight I stood before the tavern. Nothing seemed the way it used to be. In the glass I saw a strange reflection. Was that lonely woman really me? Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd fight and never lose. Those were the days, oh yes, those were the days. So anyhow, I played that song, and she opened her eyes. She looked at me, I looked at her. Some people say they saw her shed a tear, but that's just a little too Hollywood for me. And for her. So, in closing, just thank you all for being here. I wore black because I thought it was appropriate, someone to at least, but this is for her. My niece said if we were going to have a dress code, we should all wear baggy shorts, oversized men's polo shirts, and fedoras. But thank you for being here. Let's have a joyous afternoon, and thank you.
I'm Amy, I'm Helen's granddaughter, and I'm going to try to get through this without crying, but I may be a little blubbery. I want to open with a poem. It was published in the Baltimore Sun in 1924. It's called I Love Her. She smokes, she paints, she powders, she reads La Vie Parisienne, she drinks my liquor, she stays out all night, she causes trouble too. She cusses, she eats lobsters at midnight, she does a lot of things she ought not to. but she's my grandma, and I love her. When I try to describe my grandma to people who didn't meet her, I talk about walking down a street and maybe it's cold and you walk by a house and all the lights are on and the windows are warm. When you look at it, you feel warm, and that's kind of the person my grandma was. She was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime. Sorry. I'm very sniffly and sweaty, so. Thank you. When I miss her, I see her in how kind strangers are to one another. When children laugh, I hear her. And I see her looking out at all of you here today. And she'd be so mad I'm crying. I feel really grateful for our last couple days together. You know, and Uncle Spence was there too. It was really beautiful. We sang Peter, Paul, and Mary. We held hands. I told her I loved her. I think at the end she was probably ready to go because she was really sick of this. And during her life, I shared with her the poet Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver was an incredible poet. And she has this very famous line that goes, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And I think Grammy really did everything with hers. She lived it to the full. But this is a poem I read for her. I'm sorry, it's another poem. As she was dying, and I think it really says the things that I wanted to say. It's called When Death Comes. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness. And therefore, I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouse, tending, as all music does, toward silence, and each body a lion of courage, and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I've made my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited the world. And I don't think Grammy did. I think she lived her wild and precious life, and she was a bride to amazement, and she didn't just visit the world. I think she really lived in it. Thank you.
Hi, I am Christy. I'm Spencer's wife. And, you know, the first time I met Helen, she could not remember my name. And for many years after, I was known as the wife. How's the wife? But Helen is just, she's one of a kind. And I was talking with my niece about just what a wonderful, prominent woman she was in Ojai. And I mean, look at all these people here. What an attestment to my mother-in-law. One thing I remember very well about her, I have a cousin who is a gay man, and he came out when he was in high school and was having just a lot of trouble being accepted. We live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Helen came to me and she said, you know, Lynn and I would love to have your cousin come out and we could help him, we could guide him, we, you know, can invite him into our world and make him feel comfortable here. And that's one thing that's always stuck with me, is just how accepting Helen was. And Lynn, They would open their homes to anybody who needed a place to stay, anybody who felt like they were not a part of the community and became a part of the community thanks to Helen and Lynn. One thing that Helen and I really had in common that I think we both really appreciated each other for was, first of all, this amazing man that she raised, my husband. I'm very appreciative for having him and he being in my life. And one thing that she appreciated about me was that he had somebody to take care of him, other than her. So she would always say, thank you so much for taking care of my son. And then another thing that Helen, that I've always really admired and appreciated about her is how loving she was and how much she adored her grandchildren. She and Lynn would come down many times when they were, younger and would come visit Albuquerque, and we would try to make it out here, every other summer at least to come visit. But every time, the most important thing to Helen was her grandchildren. What can I do? How are they doing? Sometimes inappropriate questions, but she was just a very kind and loving woman, and she's going to be greatly missed. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Okay, I hope I can do this. Oh, I forgot my water bottle. Can you give me that? It gets so dry. Thank you. Well, I'm Lynn, the other half of Helen. And actually, it's been the 46. Uh-oh. Helen's throwing things at us. We were together 36 years, and just 6 years ago, I realized that our names went together. Hell, Lynn. And she was the hell. So we told people that way they could remember our names more easily. But yeah, she was quite the something. Always telling jokes. We'd be walking down the street and she'd just go up to somebody and say, especially if he was a bald guy, she would say, God only made a few perfect heads. The rest of them he covered with hair. She had them up her sleeve. I can't remember them all. Let's see right here. Oh shoot, I can't read this. I should have brought my glasses. No, it's okay. So when I was picking out pictures for the slideshow, there's a slideshow inside that Amy put together, so you can watch that while you're eating. And it was hard to find pictures of just her. It was always she and I together. And so that was kind of tough to go through. But it was very wonderful to go through our lives together. One of her jokes was, what's the fish say when it hits the wall? Damn. Those are the kind of corny jokes she had. But anyway, she was a great tennis teacher, taught me everything I know, and I'm still playing. I'll be 80 in a couple months, so I'm following her footsteps. Yeah, so her favorite saying for tennis players was, watch the ball, bend your knees, that'll be $20, please. Everybody knows that one. She always said that one. Well, thank you for coming out. This is a great turnout. Bigger than I anticipated. We'll go inside later for food and drink and air conditioning. So we're going to pass the mic around. Oh, yeah, Jennifer's going to come up and say something first, and then we'll pass the mic around. Come on up.
Most of you have known Helen and Lynn longer than I have. I met Helen, and Lynn asked me to speak because for almost the last year I've been living on their property. So I was involved with watching Helen as she started to make a health slide. And I witnessed a lot of things happening. And one of the things that I'll say is no matter how bad Helen felt, when Lynn was going somewhere, Helen wanted to go, even to the post office. And I would say, Helen, don't you want to stay home? No, I'm going with Lynn. And Helen and Lynn were two peas in the pod, always together, always together. And they had the sweetest relationship. God knows I haven't been able to stay with one person for 36 years. So the sacredness of the crossing of life from one side to the other. I was put on their property by divine intervention. Something happened in my world, and I met Lynn and Helen for dinner, and I told them what I was going through, and Helen right away said, come live with us. Helen was incredibly generous, and there's so many women that I know that have also lived on Helen's and Lynn's property. I'm not the only one. At the end of Helen's life, I was cooking for Lynn and Helen, and I would serve her dinner while Lynn was at band practice every Wednesday, and I would give Helen her dinner. She'd take a bite or two, fall asleep with the plate on her lap, and I would say, Helen, you can't have dessert unless you finish your dinner. But she wouldn't eat. And then I'd say, I have apple crisp, would you like some? And she would light up. Helen was hell on wheels. There's no doubt about that. Some people loved Helen, some people didn't. But what I will say is, she will be remembered. And from my heart to yours, Lynn and Helen, I think she blessed all of Ojai with her beautiful presence. And I'm very grateful to Helen and Lynn. Do you want me to read the poem? Yeah, sure. Okay. So this was shared at another celebration of life, and Lynn liked it so well, she asked me to read it. This is called We Remember Them. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind, in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now parts of us as we remember them.
Hi, I'm Tina. Everyone here back there? Yes. Great. Lenny did ask me to say a few words, so I did write something down here. Why do Boston crows never get hit in traffic? They're always that one that's going, ka, ka. Thanks, Helen. Boston Helen. I remember meeting Helen first on the tennis courts of the Ojai Athletic Club. Now, it was at that time called the Ojai Racket Club. She was drinking a beer and she was in a cute little tennis skirt. Some things change, some things never change. She drove, at that time, Helen drove a VW thing with bumper stickers everywhere. You always knew exactly where in Ojai Helen was by her car. Helen was the rec department tennis teacher, and children and adults alike would always come up to her and say, "I learned tennis from you. My mother learned tennis from you. I still love tennis because of you." And what a wonderful thing. Her love for the game has been shared with generations of folks in Ojai. Whenever we, at the Ojai Tennis Tournament for years, Helen was the desk manager at the athletic club for the Big West, when the Big West was here. And I can still remember her handing out balls, talking to every single folks that came up to play their matches. Tennis was a real love for Helen. But Helen was always about community and sharing community and building community, whether it be through tennis, through her walks with the Oaks, and when she met Lynn, the love of her life, she made Ojai a safe, wonderful, caring, fun place for women. Be it on the softball field, where Linny was an incredible pitcher, and Helen and I shared the prestigious role of playing right field. The Lavender Living Room production concerts were incredible, and the outrageous fun pool parties, pool volleyball, barbecues, that filled our summers. To know Helen was a gift, and I know one of Helen's biggest gifts in her life was her granddaughter, Amy. Amy filled Helen with love and happiness, and I'm so happy to have shared Amy's time with Grammy. Thank you. I know Helen is somewhere now, buying someone a beer and telling them a bad joke.
My name is Robert. Yeah. I'm going to talk about you. I met Helen at the opening of my ceramic art show at Gail Childress Gallery back in 2001. My artwork was very much inspired from ancient Egyptian art, and her granddaughter wanted to know what the Ankh sign meant on one of my murals. And Helen brought her to me, and I crouched down because she was much littler and told her it was the sign of life. And she was delighted, and Helen was delighted that I would take the time to explain to her granddaughter what it was. And Denny, after that, told me, "You just scored some great brownie points there." Helen loved my beard. And she loved to grab my beard. She couldn't keep her hands off of my beard, even if sometimes she had just been eating barbecued drumsticks. Like someone said before, she had no filter, and one time I had to grab her hands just as she was reaching, because I could still see the barbecue sauce on her lips. There's going to be something on those fingers. Anywho, I credit Lynn and Helen for creating the concept of a gay community in Ojai, in the Ojai Valley. With their hospitality, with their spirit of openness, they really created that concept. With their pool, water polo, volleyball matches, that spawned also the Ojai gay guys who also met to, the first time we did is because we had been totally killed by those ladies and their pool. And okay, guys, we need to practice. So we found a pool and we practiced, and I think a year or two later we finally beat them. But yeah, yes, I'm sure you did. But I was then still a newcomer to the Ojai Valley, and Helen and Lynn really made me feel most welcome, made me feel like there was a support system and a support community for someone like me and for someone like us. So thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Helen. Thank you all.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. How many people here remember Judy Thompson? Yeah. Okay, I see hands up. Okay, so my wife and I moved here in 2002, and we lived next door to Judy and Jesse Thompson. And they were on vacation when we moved in. 2 weeks later, they showed up, and I went looking to check the mail. And Judy came out, and she said, "Are you our new neighbors?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Oh, okay." I said, "I'm Beryl, and that's my partner Sue was inside." And she said, "Your partner? Your business partner?" And I said, "No, my life partner." And standing in the middle of Grand Avenue, Judy goes really loudly, "Oh my God, have you met the other lesbians in town?" Now, mind you, my first day in Ojai was the day I moved here, so I didn't even, we moved from Chicago, so anyway, so I said no, and she said, "Do you like to play trivia?" We said, "Sure." It was a Tuesday, and trivia at Calypso's, for those of you who remember Calypso's. "Oh, I have a call to make. I have calls to make." And she ran inside. And so that Tuesday, we went to Calypso's to play trivia. Lynn and Helen came in, and Sue and I were already there. And they walk up to the table we're at, and Helen slams her hands down on the table, and she says, "3 questions. 1, you know this story. 1, why Ojai? 2, where did you move from?" And she never got to the 3rd question, so now I have to die to find out what the 3rd question is. True story, and that's how we got to know them in an instant community from a huge city of Chicago. Thank you guys so much.
My name is Susan, and I moved to Ventura in August of 1983 and came up here to play tennis with Helen very shortly after that, I think probably the beginning of September. We had a 43-year friendship. Some people don't get to live that long, but I feel very blessed to have known Helen and then met Lynn, and to have had a really wonderful friendship relationship, and to have been part of the beginning of the growth of the gay community in Ojai and in Ventura County. Helen was a relationship maker and a community shaper. As I said, I started playing tennis with her. I did pay her $20, truth be told, at Libby Park. And then as we got to talking, probably over a beer after tennis, that we had a lot in common. This was truly a loving friendship match, and she made those loving matches every day with every person she spoke to in any way that was. The community expanded exponentially, and I am very proud to have been part of the beginning of Ojai Pride and the community which has spread with such vigor and gusto and energy and caring and love for all of these years. It will always continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We actually have...
When we were moving here, it was very important for me, who was part of a vibrant lesbian community, to find our people here. So I did what anyone would do. I looked online, I found Lavender Living Room, and I started having conversations with Lynn and Helen. We would not be here and be who we are without them. It was very important for my wife of 33 years, whatever, and I to, I'm rambling, I'm trying not to. The point is, I'm a hat person. I've always been a hat person. I'm the first owner of Lynn's hat, rainbow hat. I knew as soon as I connected with them in person when we got here that that hat belonged to Helen. It just did. It just belonged to Helen. And she wore the hell out of it. And I just wanted to share with you how instrumental they were in us getting settled on the West Coast and how that hat holds special meaning for me as the first owner. Thank you.
The first thing, I'll make this short because I'm not. And that's the first thing that Helen ever said to me in 1999 when she met me. She said, "How tall are you?" And I looked at her and I said, I'm 5'12". She said, "I'm taller than you are." That was 1999. My partner and I had been in LA for exactly 9 months, and my partner went kicking and screaming out of there. She said, "I need a break, I'm going to Ojai." I just started a full-time job. I said, "Okay, I'll see you Monday." She called me on Sunday. She said, "Get your butt down here, up here, wherever. I met the lesbians in Ojai." And I went, okay. So I called in sick on Monday, and I came to Ojai, and she said, "They found us a place. They found us a place. It's only $600 a month, and you can have your cat and your dogs, and it's got big trees. And it's only $600 a month. And it's got a big garage for your studio." And I went, okay, because we were living in LA. And so I quit my job, got up here, 1999, been here ever since. That's because of Lynn and Helen. Blessed be.
Wow, so many good stories have been shared, and Kate and I just want to talk about our shirts and honoring Helen. And I grew up in Ojai and moved away when I was about 19, 20, back and forth for about 10 years. Finally made it back here with my wife Joellen and our son about 4 years ago. And as many of you have expressed, yeah, we really need the queer community, and I wish I met them. I wish I met Lynn and Helen a long time ago. But my stepmom said, you gotta meet Lynn. She played tennis with her. You gotta meet Lynn, Lavender Living Room. I was like, who is this? And yeah, so grateful that we were able to connect, and it was just a matter of time. And we met Kate, and we just really had that desire for building queer community, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without Helen and Lynn and their 5 friends that started the Ojai Pride Walk 35 years ago, which was instrumental, and thank you. And thank you, Helen. So, thank you guys. So we created a group called Queers in the Valley. We're a small grassroots organization, and we got talking to Lynn and Helen, and our first official meeting with them, we were so prepared and so excited, and we had our notes like, oh my gosh, we're gonna meet, we're gonna have this official meeting with Helen and Lynn. And we had our notebooks, and by this point, of course, this was 4 years ago, so Helen was elderly, and we asked her, so, we want to be very respectful. How involved, sorry, I forgot to say, they were passing us the torch of Ojai Pride, so, which was such an honor. And we asked them, so how involved would you like to be? And Helen says, I don't care. But of course, we know that's not true, but that's where she was at that point in her life. And it was just pretty hilarious and just showed her no filter. And we just really appreciate you all. And thank you to both of you. And do you want to talk about the shirts?
I'm Kate, as Robin said. There are so many things that we could say, but just the gratitude that we all have, those of us on the Queers in the Valley Committee, the gratitude we have for the foundation that Lynn and Helen built together over those 35 years, and prior to that, for each of you here who showed up to all of the events and created the foundation for what Pride is now, for what queer community in Ojai is now. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing without you, and we're so grateful that we all arrived here back in Ojai, or arriving to Ojai for the first time, in time to meet Helen, and to have her dry, abrasive humor meet us from the get-go. What a privilege! What a privilege to get to have done that. Speaking of the shirts, we did our shirts from this year honor Helen with the rainbow hat, and we're just so grateful to get to continue to follow in her footsteps, in your footsteps, Lynn, to continue to work with you. We have so much love and gratitude for you and for Helen, and our biggest hope is that we can continue to continue the connectivity that Helen brought to the Ojai Valley. She was always reaching out to other beings, whether it was a human or the dog that distracted her in the middle of the meeting, whatever it was, or a baby. She always wanted to connect. And so, Helen, please help us to continue that legacy. We know that you are with us always, and we're so honored to get to be a part of this with all of you, and particularly with her.
It's amazing how many lives Helen has touched. Hello, everybody. My name's Elizabeth, and I saw way too many of you just a couple of days ago at the memorial over at the Oaks at Ojai, where we were honoring Don and Sheila Clough. But while standing in the lobby there, I couldn't help but remember 1988, when I first came to Ojai, and the first person I worked with at the Oaks at Ojai was this woman named Helen, who walked up to me randomly and said, "So you're the new boss? What party are you in?" I was 24. I didn't even know what kind of party she was talking about. I would have speculated more about a volleyball game than a political party, but I shrugged and said I didn't know. I was interested in everything. And the very next day, she brought me a huge stack of Mother Jones magazines, which helped me understand what politics was, and I have never looked back. Thank you very much, Helen. And decades later, when I was in the middle of my own breakup and needed a place to stay, whose house was open? Helen and Lynn's, who made their place available all the time. During Helen's career at the Oaks, which I think was about 30 years, that she led several times a week walks and strolls for these guests that came from all around the world, all around America. And she consistently showed them her favorite joke, which I'm not going to show you, but you probably know, the Elvis impersonation. And everybody who came to visit the Oaks at Ojai left with their own version of Helen's impersonation of Elvis, which of course is the dead Elvis, in case you weren't there to see it. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much for sharing all your stories.
I'm Margie Logan, and I've lived here since 1985. And I just want to give you a few ideas about how I met her and how our friendship developed. When I first moved to Ojai in '85, Helen Allen was the first person I met. She was teaching tennis at Libby Park to an older, experienced group of retirees. They were pretty gray. I was about 42. They were all laughing their heads off. And I was wandering into Libby with a tennis racket by myself. And I stopped and I thought, what fun these people are having. Helen came up to me, she noticed me and asked if I would like to join in. Well, after a couple of swings and a serve, they said I was qualified and I could be in their group. And that group went on for years. It was Helen introduced me to all the tennis people I could. I joined the club, introduced me to everyone and my family, my 2 sons. And it was like she was the welcome wagon of Ojai. And that was the beginning of improving my tennis skills and laughing at Helen's jokes and puns and rejoinders. I mean, we looked forward to that every week. Thank you. And she was just one of those people you couldn't forget. She was just the most lovable person. Helen had one of the biggest generous hearts of anyone I've ever known. She's gone so much, she's given so much to this town, the tennis community, Bravo Music Van that Lynn started. She teaching children in the park. Every time I pass there and I hear kids laughing, I knew Helen was giving a lesson. Then she would bring people together, donating time and energy and money. I don't think she ever said no to help if somebody needed help. And she started the GBT community here, and whether you were needy, a newbie, a nobody, a nomad, non-typical, homeless, jobless, Helen could help. And no wonder she was chosen treasurer of Ojai and rode in the parade. There weren't people like her. Nobody else I can think of had her personality, her outrageousness, her character. It was a joyful surprise to meet Lynn when Helen brought her over to our family Thanksgiving. And this was probably 1990. And one of my sons, maybe it was Andy, came running in the house. Mom, Helen's in the garage kissing a girl. Well, we all kind of looked at each other, and that was, oh, forget it. That was really, oh, really? For all of us, because that was before Lynn, and I'll tell you, if there ever was a match made in heaven, that was it. What a dynamo duo. And we would go play trivia at night sometimes. We had poker nights. We had Academy Award parties where Helen and Lynn won the best costume every year. Anyway, we had so many fun memories. It's hard to believe Helen is gone. She was a beloved character and friend to many. And for me, she will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Margolin Potter, and I think Helen is in that purple chair right now, witnessing everything and everybody. And gosh, you guys summed her up so well. I met Helen probably back in the 80s, a few years before she met Lynn. I was at the Oaks. I would come there often with my mom, and when I was a teenager, and then I must have met her somewhere in the 80s. And Sheila Clough, the owner at the time, said, "Hey, will you help out with our tennis week? And I'm going to have you teach with our in-house tennis teacher, who's Helen." And so I met Helen, and we taught for the next 10 years down at Lower Libby. We had the tennis week every year. And so I would just come up from LA for that week. But Helen said, "Hey, I know you're getting a room at the Oaks, so if you want to come a little early, you can stay at my back house."
And so I stayed in the back house, and then sometimes she would have me, after the tennis week was over, she'd say, well, if you want to stay a couple extra days, you can do that too. And then the riots happened in LA, and I think it was 90, 91, something like that. So she said, stay a couple days longer. So again, I was just one of many that stayed in her house, observed the generosity that she had. And then she'd said, you can come up other times of the year if you want. So I would come and bring a friend, a girlfriend or something. And then I started dating my future husband, Ian. And she was fine with me bringing a girlfriend. And then I said, well, Helen, I have a boyfriend now. Do you think he can stay too? And she said, let me ask Lynn. And what did Lynn say? No way, Jose. We've got jacuzzi parties here, So, but then Lynn met Ian, and Helen always had this thing. She loved Ian so much that she said, if you ever want to get rid of him, I'll take him. And I'm like, yeah, but what would Lynn say? Helen had about 8 lives, would you say, Lynn? I mean, she just kept recovering from whatever. She'd do a face plant on the ground and, she'd break a clavicle bone. She had TIAs. This woman just kept recovering and recovering and recovering. I'd go and visit her at the hospital in Ventura. I don't know, Ian, if you were with me, but, the doctor had come in to see her and she had these medications that she was going to have to take. And I said, Helen, it says that you can't have alcohol with this one. And she goes, well, screw them. She said something more harsh, but I won't say it. And so she's like, well, screw that. Helen liked her drink. She and Lynn never cooked. So they went out to restaurants and bars every night. And no more social couple have you ever met in Ojai. She introduced me and Ian and myself to everyone. The story is when I finally moved here in the 90s, she contacted the Ojai Valley Athletic Club before I even moved here to tell them they better hire me. And so she was always looking out for people. I don't know if there's any, I saw the Elvis impersonation. She would lie on the ground in front of all the guests and put her hands over her chest and say, guess who this is? So I walked with her, I taught tennis with her. We had our first Christmas at your guys' house on Signal Street. Amy, I knew when she was crawling at the club, the cutest baby ever. She loved that woman to death until her dying day. That's it. I'm Joanne Yabroff, and I recently had an epiphany that Helen invented the dad joke. Someone else has now usurped that, and they call it a dad joke. But I only regret that I never counted how many times I heard the same joke. They seem to recycle at a monthly gathering, but every time now that I hear a really stupid joke, I can't help but think of Helen. Bless her.
My name is Andreas. I've been attending the Ojai Music Festival since 2009. And one of the first couple of festivals that I attended, Lynn said, hey, come sit with us. And so I got to know Lynn and Helen, and I got to know Lynn's lack of filter and her jokes, and Lynn and Helen's hospitality for me and my friends that I've brought up over the years. And they've really helped make the festival the highlight of every year that I think I've missed 3 since 2009, and I was really appreciated seeing Lynn and Helen. And there was definitely a big chasm this year when I came and Helen wasn't there. So thanks for being my friend.
I had the same introduction of Ojai through Lynn and Helen. My neighbor and I in Malibu volunteered through the Malibu Times newspaper to work for the festival. This was in the 1980s. So we started coming up, and then after a while, the festival said that they would pay me, because I was then not just an usher, but a festival working with the performers. And I said, actually, I would rather have a place to stay because I'm paying for a hotel. So I stayed at lots of places, and finally I lucked out Lynn and Helen. And after I stayed with them, they said, come back anytime. So that was the beginning in the 1980s. And I was there again this spring. because through them I learned about the group with the tennis. I was a security person with the tennis. Go figure that one. But I would never have known all these wonderful things in Ojai had it not been for my wonderful introduction and sustaining friendship. Also, I used to be a teacher, and so the students they were taught, like by Lynn, to play different instruments. And I do remember Helen with the tuba. She was boop, 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 and the kids loved it. So I can remember that very well, and they made all the difference in the world in introducing me to Ojai and becoming a part, because I've been here many times only because they were gracious and invited me. So I thank them very, very much.
Oh man, okay, fine. Yeah, we go back to 1990. I think it was 1990. I was walking along the arcade, Ojai, of course, and it was around Christmas time, and I passed Dave Mason's floral shop, and I saw Helen and Lynn inside, and I backed up, looked, and Helen was going like this, and we just waved. And it wasn't a couple of months later till I actually got to meet them at a birthday party. And Helen greeted me and was so kind, and then regaled me with her Helen jokes. And yeah, that was Helen. That began 35 years of naked water ball parties. The Pride marches, which I was one of the originals 35 years ago, and we called them the Dyke March because there were 6 of us. We were all dykes, but now it's the Pride. And let's see, Christmas Eve parties, birthday gatherings, and the concerts that Helen and Lynn produced. They did so much for our community. So Helen was generous with her humor, her support to the LGBTQ+, the queer community, and with the grapefruit from her tree. Helen, you are terribly missed, but we promise to keep the party going.
What I remember most...
Introduce yourself, Randy.
Oh, I'm Randy.
Awesome, Randy.
And I've known them for over... 12, 13 years. And this beautiful badass, I would look Helen in the eye and I'd go, "Do you know how much I love you?" And she said, "I feel so sorry for you."
Thank you. Thank you so much. And the party continues inside. Wait. Oh yeah, and if you want to sit in there, bring your chair.
Yeah.